In this lesson, you will learn about how design thinking can be incorporated into learning design or instructional design process. I will introduce you to the fundamental reasons why I believe, as an industry expert, in this lesson, we need to adopt a new approach to learning design or instructional design into learning. This new approach to designing and developing instructional products utilizes a method of human-centered design called design thinking. Incorporating design thinking into our existing process can help us create a better instructional product. So, what does this mean for instructional design? Why do we need to do differently? So, you will discover in this lesson that the process of design thinking to the process of learning design or instructional design, providing an explanation of what needs to change and how we take steps to make that change happen. While design thinking is very much a mindset and a philosophy, there is a process that lends structure to these activities. This process is just as useful for the design and development of instructional products as it is for the design and development of traditional consumer-facing products or technology solutions. For each phase or mode in the design thinking process, I'll provide an explanation of the phase and then explain how you can incorporate that mode into your instructional design process, regardless of whether you use a traditional linear approach like the ATDIE, an agile or iterative model like the SAM, or an organization-specific process. The design thinking process, credited to Stanford University Hasso-Plattner Institute of Design, or more commonly known as the school, is less of a formal, rigid process and more of series of cycles or modes, which, when we pull together, form an overall process flow. The modes that designers get into are empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test, and each can loop or overlap in cycles until a product worthy of launching has been created. Now, in the first phase, designers learn a lot about the person for whom they create the solution. Learning about this person may include borrowing the techniques of psychologists or anthropologists. It may mean literally walking a mile in your target audience's shoes during a field interview, or asking probing questions to hear about their struggles and their successes. It's listening as they explain their environment, their habits, how they go about their business on a day-to-day basis. You ask them to share stories, giving examples of experiences that may have had. All of this is done with a goal of gaining as much empathy as you can for your audience. Now, in stage number 2 is called the define. But let's move on with the empathize. So many instructional designers, upon hearing that empathize is the first mode in the design thinking process, feel proud. After all, the first step of most instructional design process is analysis or backgrounding. The type of analysis that most instructional designers or learning designers participate in is relatively ineffective at building empathy. A typical learner needs analysis may include questions about the current level of performance versus desired level of performance, the key performance indicators or metrics that should be used for evaluation, the existing material, or training that learners have already received. However, gathering answers to these or similar questions barely scratches the surface of what the emphasis mode is design thinking does. For us to gain empathy for our learners, we need to be talking directly to our target audience as best we can. Too often, we get our answers from the managers or senior leaders who are requesting the training rather than the target audience. We need to get out and meet out with our learners, or as accurate a representation of the population as we can. So for new hire training, as example, we would want to meet with newly hired associates, not a 15-year-old veteran. Now, in the design stage, designers take all the information collected in the empathize mode and begin to organize the data. In my head, this plays out like a scene in a movie in which the detective working a tough case hangs the pictures of the victims, suspects, evidence, and other artifacts of the crime on the wall and starts to string together connections in an effort to solve the mystery. Okay, it may be glamorizing our work as instructional designers just a bit, but essentially, we are taking all the evidence we collected to better define the problem we need to solve. Now, the next stage is ideation. Once you have clearly defined the problem based on the information you gathered during empathize, you are ready to enter the mode of ideation. Now, what is ideation? Ideation is the process of gathering as many potential solutions as possible through a series of brainstorming exercises. This activity fits nicely into both a traditional and agile instructional design process. You can incorporate ideation mode easily into the tasks you perform. During the design phase of the ADDIE, and is already built into the preparation phase of the model SAM. When done wrong, brainstorming sessions are a horrible waste of time and resources. But when done well, they can generate some of the best potential solutions to the problems we face. Now, next come prototype. After the team has brainstormed several potential viable solutions to the problem we are attempting to solve, it's time to bring those ideas to life by moving from concept to a tangible object, entering the mode of prototype. Now, I'll be honest with you, this mode is where I see instructional designers struggle the most. Personally, I believe this is because prototypes not only have a chance of failing, but intentionally built for failure. And in case you didn't know that most instructional designers don't like to fail. But prototyping is exactly the tool that can help save us from the formerly easy to replicate instructional product creation. Coming up with an original idea, prototyping it, and getting feedback to modify the design is something that machines just can't do yet. It's one of those unique human traits that we possess. When adjusting a traditional instructional design process to include the prototype mode, it's common to drop it in as a task in the development phase because you're going to actually build something. However, the appropriate phase or place is actually a task during the design phase because you want to be able to make modifications to the design based on the feedback received from the end users, or you call them the prototype testers. Prototypes are a simple concept but a complex subject for instructional designers. For me personally, it was a huge difficult transition to move from beautifully written, elaborate design documents to prototypes. But once I did, I couldn't think about going back. Therefore, the fourth part in this series is dedicated to prototyping. Now, the next stage, number 6, is the test. Prototyping a design goes hand in hand with the test mode. The process of testing is simple. You articulate the problem you are attempting to solve, present your prototype, and then watch and listen as your target audience tests it out, taking notes and eliciting feedback about what goes well and what does not. Due to the results of the test, you may need to step back in the process, not just to prototype and test. And that's okay. Doing so will create a better received and more valuable instructional product. And in the end, that's what really counts. The test mode, like the prototype, belongs in the design phase of your process. The design thinking test should be confused with any pilot that you run for your instructional product. The pilot test is done so late in the process that any significant change to the design would nearly be impossible. So as you can see, the design thinking process seems to end when you have a prototype that meets the needs of the learner. This is somewhat true, as design thinking is all about the process of design, not the process of development. Moving a prototype to a fully developed product relies on the designer continuing to develop the target learner audience. As you build and develop, you'll ask for their participation and input along the way. Incorporating the modes of design thinking into our instructional product creation can help us build the modes of design thinking into our instructional product creation. Can help us build a face-to-face or e-learning program that our learners actually appreciate. It helps create training that solves a learner or business problem. These types of results will help us remain a valuable partner to our business leaders. Okay, now let's make a quick summary of what you have learned from this lesson. So as you may notice from the screen, there are 5 stages: empathy, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So during the empathy stage, you have to really meet up with the audience of whom you are going to design the instructional design or learning design materials, no matter whether it's a face-to-face training programs or e-learning programs. Now, what you do next is you redefine and focus your questions based on your insights from the empathy stage. This is done during the define stage. And when you move on, you will come up to a stage called ideation. Now, at this stage, you have to brainstorm and come up with creative solutions from what you have discovered from empathy and the define stage. Now, after ideation is where you build a representation of one or more of your ideas to show to others. Now, this is called the prototype. And finally is the test stage. Now, this stage is where you return to your original user and test your ideas from the prototype, and you need to get feedback. So from this feedback, you begin to make corrections, and you begin to develop another prototype to move on to the implementation stage.